The Indiana State Police say a mother and daughter have been charged with felony theft after an investigation revealed the two were allegedly pocketing money from patients at their place of employment. Dr. Shields said the cash discount was not a regular practice, and during the investigation, it was discovered that the cash was not ever deposited into the practice's bank account. It was the same kind of thing where cash was just taken off the ledger, pocketed, and also there was some really funny stuff with insurance where insurance checks were being deposited into a personal bank account. I feel like it took 2 or 3 years before the doctor figured it out.
So he was very on guard after that. So he was always hesitant on hiring team members that knew each other because of his past.
Welcome to a new era of dentistry, the ultimate podcast for uncovering the latest trends, breakthroughs, and real-life stories in the dental industry. Hosted by me, Ashley Bond, co-founder and chief dental billing officer at Wisdom. Let's dive right in.
Welcome back. This week's episode, we're going to focus on dental drama. We're actually going to unpack an article posted by Prosperident that they pulled from a local radio station in Indiana pertaining to embezzlement in the dental office. It actually happened here in my home state of Indiana. It was quite the thing in the news. Of course, financial devastation is bad for anybody, but we want to talk about how it can impact the dental office. So I'm going to start by just reading the article, and we'll unpack that after that. So Prosperident's website, quoting them again via local radio station, the Indiana State Police say a mother and daughter have been charged with felony theft after an investigation revealed the two were allegedly pocketing money from patients at their place of employment, which was Dr. Shields in DeMott, Indiana. So in February of this year, they actually filed charges. The office closed during this because it had such an impact, according to this article. So Dr. Shields noticed some accounting irregularities and requested an investigation, and over 40 patients were interviewed. It seems that the patients were convinced by one of the two team members, who were a mother-daughter duo, to pay cash to receive a discount for services. Dr. Shields said the cash discount was not a regular practice, and during the investigation, it was discovered that the cash was not ever deposited into the practice's bank account. They did discover, however, that one of the team members did have several thousands of dollars deposited into her bank account. That person has since been charged with theft of at least $50,000, corrupt business influence, fraud, obstruction of justice, and forgery. Her counterpart was charged with the same. So I want to sort of end my bit here, and then I want to get some insight from Ashley too. I didn't experience this firsthand as a team member, but I started at an office that was coming out of this identical situation. And it was in the millions. And it was the same kind of thing where cash was just taken off the ledger, pocketed, and it was crazy. I think so many dentists are so trusting, which we want them to be. Most of us work really hard. We never do a thing like this. But the fact that it had gotten into the millions via this exact scenario, and also there was some really funny stuff with insurance where insurance checks were being deposited into a personal bank account. And the way that the person had kept the aging report down was by posting some of the insurance payments to older claims, not the current claim, and keeping other things open. Like, that person had really gotten tricky with this. I feel like it took 2 or 3 years before the doctor figured it out, and the court dates were happening when I was in the office. And I don't know if that dentist ever really got any of the financial recoupments that she was rewarded.
That's devastating. The sad part is it happens so often. I mean, I think we mentioned before, 3 out of 5 dentists will be embezzled from within their career, it happens to a lot of dentists. And man, reading stories like this, I mean, first of all, how do you have that conversation, like with your mom? Of like, hey, we're going to do this. Like, is this something they've done in the past and they got away with it? So like, let's try it with this new doctor. Or what is going on in their situation that convinces them that this is a good idea? That's what blows my mind, especially when there's more than one person involved. Like, who brings up that conversation of, hey, let's steal from the doctor? Or how does that conversation even come up when you're not doing it solo, especially? Could you imagine
Right.
if you're working in an office and your team member's like, hey, let's start pocketing some of this money?
Yeah, and that's what makes this one a little more unique. I'm
Mm.
sure it's happened and it's out there, but typically from what I've read or heard about, it's one person. So this is like,
Mm-hmm.
wow, two people at the front desk. And honestly,
Right.
side conversation a little bit, there are quite a few people who are cousins or friends or siblings or whatever that
Mm-hmm.
work in the dental office because a lot of us are trained on the job. So if you know a great
Right.
person, you bring them in. But just a side note to ourselves to make sure we're paying attention to what's going on. Doctors
Mm-hmm.
pay attention to what's going on. Know your reporting and your finances and all of the facets of your front desk. It doesn't mean you can't trust people.
Right.
So the doctor that I mentioned that I work for, one of the first conversations that she had with me, because cameras can help in this, is that, hey, we have cameras at the front desk, and it isn't because we don't trust you or want to watch what you're doing. I'm not watching you from home or anything like that. It's because I literally lost $1 million and couldn't figure out how or why that happened. So historically, if ever it were to happen again or somebody breaks in, we just want to be able to see what happened. And I thought that she went about that very well and it worked really well. So that might be one option for offices if they really want to just have historically what's going down at the front desk.
Yeah. Well, and I, working with my father, which he was embezzled from, years ago, and it was two friends that did it, and I think it was with cash payments as well. And so he was very on guard after that. So he was always hesitant on hiring team members that knew each other because of his past. So if they were related, if they were friends, not that we hadn't done it because we had, but that was one of his big concerns. Like, do we have to worry if they're both working up front and they're friends that something could happen? Which I completely understand now on why he was so hesitant about that, because stories like this happen way too often. And I think too of what doctors can make sure that they're doing is running those audit reports in your practice management software, because they were deleting transactions on the ledger. So my assumption is they posted the cash payment, gave the patient the receipt, went back and deleted it. And then who knows, maybe they then wrote it off so the patient would get a statement. Maybe they changed the billing type, but running those audits to see what's being deleted, making sure your security rights are set up so that certain people are unable to, delete payments, or they might have to have authorization to do that. So making sure you're protecting yourself in that way and that you can catch things that just don't look right in the system.
Absolutely. Audit trails are everything. Even if you reconcile, you should still be running audit trails to track what was deleted and why. And I think any team, any reasonable team would understand that and not be opposed to it if there isn't any funny business going on.
Yeah, no. And I think with what we do, we're able to provide that security because no matter what, even if you're not outsourcing, you want to separate who is putting the money into the practice management software with who is handling the money, who is filling out the deposit. Those, you want those to be separated out so that you can have those checks and balances between who's putting it in, who's handling it, making sure the doctor has the right deposit slip. We always had to check off every little penny before the end of the day, balance our credit card statement against the ledger deposit slip, balance, any care credit that was ran, go back and put the discount later after that popped up on the website for my father's QuickBooks, balance the insurance checks, the cash payments, the personal checks, everything needs to be balanced by the end of the day. Or if you do it the next day in the morning, but ideally by the end of the day, and then all that's turned in to the doctor, they get that paperwork that shows practice management software equals the deposit slip that you have in your system. And if you outsource, the nice thing is we're handling the practice management software piece, making sure what you say that you have and giving to the doctor reflects in your deposit slip in your practice management software. So make sure those duties are always separated so you don't run into this. And then, the hard part with cash payments, that's where you need to be running your audit trails, pay very close attention to what's going on with your patients and understanding don't completely take yourself out of the conversations when it comes to what's happening with the front and collections. Like, the doctor needs to be aware of what's happening, and don't completely pull yourself out because, I don't handle money. but you need to have a hand on everything that's going on. So you don't have to have the financial conversations necessarily, but you need to know all the offerings. You need to know what your patients are being told, and you need to really be part of those conversations with your team.
Yeah. So what would you do? Question for me. I just thought this out while you were talking. We've both been in the remote world for a little while now and watched technology grow, not just in dentistry, but in general. What do you think about potentially offices moving towards just not accepting cash? I know a lot of businesses just don't accept cash anymore anyway. Do you think that would impact? I mean, how many patients would we say even really want to pay cash, right?
Well, no, and I mean, for me, I never have cash on me. So I know sometimes, though, that gets a bad stigma of like, oh, they don't accept cash. But I would evaluate, your practice. I think every practice is different. It depends where you live. If you're in a city, in an urban area, you might not get a lot of cash. But if you live out, I don't know, in Indiana, where I'm from in Missouri, you might find places that they like to spend with cash. So, when I worked in my father's practice, we rarely took cash. So if your office takes a lot of cash, to me, you at least need to be really on top of it, because reading through the stories of, embezzlement that happens, I mean, there's a lot of ways to do it, unfortunately, but cash payments is one of the number one ways. So if you are an office that's going to take that risk, that's okay if that's what your demographic, how they need to pay, but you need to have extra attention to what is going on.
Yeah, I agree. And that's a really good point. There are some areas where cash may be king, if you will. And outside of reports, one thing that just pops into my mind is looking at your schedule, because based on this story and what I was told where I used to work, I think appointments disappeared and nobody ever really thought to look farther back than a couple of days, right? To see if the schedule looked the same after the day ended as it did the day of. And I think that's how a lot of it happened. So all of us get to the end of the day, that day is done, your book's balanced for the day, everything's set complete, it looks great. You move on with your life. If you're one of those offices that prints your day sheets and everything and files it away on paper, even then you don't go back and look at that and compare it to your appointments. So an appointment book audit maybe is something, if you take a lot of cash, that you should do.
Oh, yeah. And I still, even with as much as I love technology and not so much printing paper anymore, still up till my dad's retirement, I mean, we would print that day sheet, print that deposit slip. When the deposit slip from the bank came back, we would find the matching deposit slip that we printed from the practice management software. We would staple the receipt from the bank to the practice management software deposit slip. Always kept the day sheets, we kept the schedules, and at the end of the year, my dad would take a huge box of all that year's worth of deposit slips and day sheets and all the information, take it to hold it for 7+ years. Some are probably still in his attic. But I like that you have that paper record that you can go back to, and if there's something funky, you can go, oh, let me pull March's deposit slip and see where it is, because that's not going to change that paper that you printed. The practice management software might change if things get deleted.
Very true. And with the speed of technology these days, you may do a software conversion. I didn't think we were going to go down a keep paper for a while rabbit hole today. It just revealed itself as we talk things out.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt to have backup. And even if you don't want to print it, save it as a PDF. Save it in a shared file folder. For our offices, we're always confirming the deposit slip against what they say they scan to us. And we are securing, saving those into a secure folder so that anytime we can go back and say, for whatever reason, if someone in the office would delete a payment, we have something we can refer to back that says, no, on this day, this is how the end of the day ended out. So if it's not reflecting those right numbers, we need to do an audit trail and see who deleted that payment.
This leads me to a spinoff we need to do as far as reporting goes. There's so much to unpack with reporting. The first step, if you accept insurance, being claims and clean claims submission and everything that comes after that. So I think we'll call it a wrap for this episode. Of course, if you're worried about embezzlement or anything we said today just makes a light bulb go off in your head, email us at info@withwisdom.com. We even offer free practice analysis for offices. So get in touch with us and we'll tell you how to do that. We're always here to help, and we'll circle back.
See you guys next time.
Thank you for joining us on today's journey through a new era of dentistry. Subscribe, stay tuned, and transform your career, practice, and patient experience. Until next time, keep innovating, keep caring, and stay smiling.